I'm David Mason. I'm the Director of Public Health for the town of Sandwich, and we've been having conversations through other episodes discussing the town of Sandwich's comprehensive wastewater management plan and how to protect the town of Sandwich's water resources. And one of the components of the CWRMP, the Comprehensive Water Resource Management Plan, was how to enhance economic development, because it was a long-term goal of the Sandwich planning. But how do we balance economic development with protecting our water resources? And we do have a number of properties in town that could potentially be developed, but the majority of those properties are within what's called a Zone 2, or a groundwater protection zone, and those areas are actually the underground water flow that is pulled towards the public supply wells. So anything that enters the ground from above has the potential to enter those public water supplies. So in order to achieve economic development for a commercial base or a commercial tax base, we need to provide wastewater treatment, and that's one of the items that we're interested in pursuing in the town of Sandwich is a wastewater treatment facility, by example, one that would be located at the end of Jan Sebastian Drive. And discussing this today is Ed Childs, who's the Director of Assessing, and Ralph Attacco, who is the Director of Planning and Economic Development. And we're going to just have a discussion to outline the issues, concerns, and how we achieve economic development in these areas of town that are within a Zone 2. So, Ralph, you've been involved with planning and involved with this process for economic development. You sit with the SEIC, and you have an understanding of the needs in the town here. What can you tell us or share with us as far as what people in the town should know regarding this issue?
Sure, Dave. As you brought up, that the town has been talking about this for quite some time, and one of the key points to bring up is it is mentioned in our local comprehensive plan, which was developed in 2009, and it does address the balance between economic development and the community. And one of the key tenets discussed in the local comprehensive plan was the need for a wastewater solution. Two of the economic zones identified are, as you point out, the industrial park here on Jan Sebastian Drive, and also South Sandwich Village, which was formerly known as the Golden Triangle. A lot of things, water and wastewater is a primary infrastructure need, which we currently do not have in those locations or throughout the town. By providing a wastewater solution, what we do is we give opportunity to developers to really address that critical infrastructure need. In that situation, it removes doubt from the developer. How am I going to handle my wastewater needs? What can I build in a water recharge area? With a wastewater solution, we eliminate that question mark, and developers and people in general that don't like unanswered questions. So the more questions we can answer that we could have addressed, the more opportunities we will have to develop the properties. Also, by having this infrastructure in place, if we go forward with it, it will give us opportunities to create growth in incentive zones, and also there are also state programs which we can start applying for to create zoning, so we could put in place properties that developers will understand what the needs are, what the parameters are. In addition to large commercial developments or just developments in business, it also gives the homeowner predictability. They don't have to worry about what's going to happen to their septic system. Or in the larger scale, when we talk about comprehensive water program, how will I get my water in? Do I have to continue, will I have an opportunity to go off a well and to go on to public water? It's down the road, but the comprehensive water plan addresses it, and what we're trying to achieve addresses that. So it gives value to the homeowner, and it gives value to current businesses, and it starts removing questions for people who want to develop in the town of Sandwich.
Well, and that's a good point, Ralph, because as you know, the town has put out for sale on a couple occasions the South Sandwich Village, or also known as the Golden Triangle, and one of the biggest stumbling blocks for that development or hurdle was wastewater, because it didn't exist in place. It became a challenge.
Right, absolutely, because what wastewater solution do you implement in the development people are looking to put there? How much flow do you need? What kind of septic system do you need? Once we have sewers in, it just makes it a lot easier, and again, a lot more predictable. And what we learn is that developers like predictability.
Right, and I think as far as, it's a good time to point out, in the CWRMP, it does talk about wastewater infrastructure or sewering, but we're not looking at doing the entire town.
Right.
We're doing a phased approach for specific areas. Downtown is in a phase 2. The industrial area or Jan Sebastian and the South Sandwich Village would be a priority at that.
Right, and again, those areas, Jan Sebastian and South Sandwich Village, have been targeted for a very long time for economic development.
And I think in terms of the CWRMP, looks at protecting water resources. I've spoken of this in the past as far as drinking water supplies, expanding water lines, protection of ponds, and that has an impact on property values.
Absolutely.
And so Ed Child has done work looking at this from a commercial standpoint, but I'm sure he has a good understanding of potential negative impacts affecting property values in town also.
Right. We were tasked in October with putting together scenarios with wastewater solutions in place to feed back on what both you and Ralph have talked about. Every time we've met, and we've been on groups, Dave, you and myself and Ralph as well, over the last 15 years, where the starting point would be how are we going to handle the wastewater? And as Ralph clearly pointed out, without having those knowns in place, it just became an exercise in frustration for everybody because you couldn't centrally identify an answer. Having the infrastructure in place and being able to look at the possibilities of what's out there for the South Sandwich Village and for the Sandwich Industrial Park, we're eliminating the doubt of not only building new facilities, and particularly in Sandwich, when you talk to the commission or you talk to other people, a lot of the types of businesses, when they talk about their concentric circles of contribution to an area, are already taken up. So your Mashpee villages and stuff, there probably is already enough there. So we're talking about special use properties in a lot of cases, or use of the property. In those scenarios, wastewater becomes even more important because whether it's some type of a park atmosphere or a sports atmosphere or something, there is definitely more stress on a wastewater environment than, say, an office park might render in a day. Not only new properties, but existing properties. They were built with constraints already in place. So what if they want to expand? So we analyzed not only what you could do with the raw properties, the raw land properties, but also with existing properties in these two areas about if we wanted to change the use. We even did a more far-reaching scenario saying, what if it was all restaurant use? And in that scenario, we came up with value totals for the two areas combined that are in range with the $260 million value of the new Unit 3 that's being built currently up on Cape Cod Bay. That's profound. And why is that profound? From the positive standpoint, you're starting to develop things. When you look at economic models for residential in areas where you start getting development, you see growth in those areas. When you see the certainty of a wastewater solution, you see growth in even the residential and particularly in the commercial areas. what I foresee happening is you have this economic development growth potential. You have the residential growth potential, and this is already in a market that is growing just by desire or demand for properties. The last couple of years have seen some of the stronger real estate market activity that we've seen in the last 10 years. And commercial, what makes that more important? It's utility of the tax dollar. The commercial properties don't utilize a number one spending portion of our budgets, which is the school department. And that's just a statement of the fact that, they don't have to participate in that. They'll participate in fire services, street services, police, but its percentage of usage on a per dollar basis is less. So we're getting more bang for the buck by having that type of development in place. And the magnitude of it is, when you look at charts that we did with it, it's 5 to 7 times present value. That is extremely significant. Once again, using the present numbers for fiscal 18, it would be 1.5% to 2% of the total value of the town, similar to the Unit 3 addition.
Okay.
And I think to add to that, there's a new movement in planning and economic development, and it's to create cluster developments, to have mixed use, and the wastewater solution really provides an opportunity for that. You know, currently in the water discharge, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a bedroom per 10,000 square feet. You know, with the wastewater solution, we create those cluster environments, mixed use, where people could live and work, and then it becomes important. You know, what is the demographic we're looking for? People want to have the opportunity to work and to go out and eat, and then we're starting to see those dollars spread around. You know, the economic circle. Sandwich Sandwich will be receiving a portion of the tax dollar. Then you know the restaurant. Then we have meals tax, and then people are making more money, and then they buy new cars. Then it just happens. And I know it's we're really looking into the future for that. But what it does is, this is the first step if we want to start creating opportunity for that to happen. With wastewater, again, it creates predictability. If we want to pursue a cluster type village atmosphere, we can. Without it, we cannot.
So as we plan for the future, we're
Right.
planning for the future for
Right.
development, values,
Right.
and also for water resource protection.
Right.
To feed a little bit on what Ralph is saying too, it also serves two present needs that people talk about all the time in the town. Our senior population and our young population. You have the ability for cluster development. You have the ability to build smaller units because you don't have to worry about the percentages or the gallonage per.
Right.
You can contain it in that area. So whether you do a 55 or over restricted,
Right.
or if you do 1-bedroom units with the younger folks in mind, it's having this infrastructure in place allows for both those scenarios to be in place.
Walkable communities work for.
Exactly.
And just so there's an understanding, when the two of you have both mentioned as far as gallonage per day, you're speaking of wastewater,
Right.
and what the limitation is with that through the Mass Department of Environmental Protection is any development that's over 10,000 gallons per day requires a groundwater discharge permit. So if you put 10,000 gallons per day of water into the ground, discharge as far as sewage effluent, you're required to have a wastewater treatment plant in order to cleanse that water to a drinking water quality. And that's what we're attempting to achieve here, while protecting water resources and providing for development also. So you have that intersection of development, values, and resource protection, and this is what we're attempting to achieve in the town of Sandwich. Ralph spoke to the comprehensive
Local comprehensive
plan. Thank you for the correction. And as far as moving forward with the values in the town, and protecting the resources. I'll keep reiterating that with you, that it's about protecting the future for our water resources, and we hope this was an educational discussion for you. Thank you.